Hey guys, Steve Camerata here, the WINEWORKZ guy, your friend. I am here today. Very special news. I want to start reading my book to you guys. This is future New York Times best-selling book, Please Don't Die, by Stephen Camerata, yours truly. Picture on the left shows a cigarette, a shot glass, some funeral cards. On the left, on the right side of the page there, you can see the rosary. It's just kind of a dichotomy. Basically represents my early beginnings and where I'm at now in life. The way I envision this book is chapter 1 will have a black and white picture of perhaps an oak tree with one red cardinal for chapter 1. Chapter 2, two red cardinals, and so on. When the book is finally finished, the final picture of the final chapter will have however many chapters I finish with. That oak tree will be in color with the cardinals in color. And that just represents, the cardinal represents someone that has passed, is thinking of you. But anyway, today on this video, I'm going to show you the prologue and the introduction I'm going to read and the prologue. And then also in this video, I'll just read you some of the chapters that I have described. Okay. Really what I'm doing here is dividing it into 4 books. Book 1 is Please Don't Die, I Said to Myself, and it's a story of some of my close calls with death. Book 2, Please Don't Die, Dad, and that's really some wonderful stories of my father and some handwritten notes even that he wrote. Book 3, Please Don't Die, Thomas, and that one is about my son Tommy and his close calls. He's had several, trust me. He was premature, under 2 pounds, so his book is going to be very exciting. But what I'm really looking forward to most is writing book 4, which is Please Don't Die, My Friend. And that'll have, unfortunately, 15 chapters. I could probably do more, but 15 close friends that I've lost through different ways: suicide, car accidents, motorcycle crash, 9/11, murder, suicide, you name it. It's a huge thing. So a lot of great stories in there. So look forward to that. But for now, as I say, right now in this video, I'm going to read the introduction, the prologue, and an outline of the chapters. This is Please Don't Die, written by me. The moment we are born is the moment that we start dying. The countdown timer begins with our very first breath and it ends with our last. It is up to you, the reader, to make most out of each and every breath you take in between. This is a book written for those who have suffered loss. It is a book written to help you deal with the pain and sadness you are now feeling, not by focusing on the death itself, but more so about cherishing the happy moments and memories that you have shared with your loved ones while they are still alive. We all die. That is a simple fact of life. When dealing with death, this book encourages you to focus on celebrating life. And people slamming doors in the background when they know there's a video going. So here's the prologue. The prologue. I will never forget the sound my father made as he took his very last breath. I held his limp hand tightly as I watched his chest slowly rise and fall, and I listened to his breath get lighter and lighter, slower and slower, until that final moment, that final rise of his chest and that final sound, click. That is the best way I can describe the sound. It was very faint, very quiet, but to me it sounded like a soft and quiet click, and then he was gone. This is not a story about death, but rather a story about life. Through the many unfortunate deaths I've experienced in my 48 years of my life, that tells you I started this book 2 years ago because I'm almost 50. I have been greatly rewarded with wonderful stories and cherished memories of the lives of those who have touched mine. The lives lived by the friends and family that I write to you about now and fond memories we've shared is what this story is all about. My very first experience with death happened when I was just a young boy. What I remember most about it was not necessarily how sad I was, but I remember how sad my parents were. They had lost a very close friend. Her name was Sister Mary Marie, and I remember her well. Sadly, she was killed in a terrible car accident involving a semi-tractor trailer on the QEW heading to Toronto. I was so young at the time, and I really do not remember the funeral or what happened next. My next experience with death was many years later when I was around 12 years old. Her name was Gwen, and she was hit by a car and killed while walking home from a friend's party. I really liked Gwen a lot, and I was so shocked and saddened by her sudden and tragic death. I remember hearing the announcement over the loudspeaker in homeroom class. The principal had said what had happened and then offered grief counseling services for whoever thought they might need it. I was absolutely stunned when I heard 2 classmates laughing while listening to the announcement. I distinctly remember hearing one of them say that she was better off dead because nobody liked her anyway. Hearing this broke my heart and made me realize just how cruel some people can be. It was only a few short weeks later when I experienced my third loss. Ironically, it happened in the exact same way. It was my best friend Billy's older brother Thomas, and he was walking home from a party that involved underage drinking while he was also struck and killed by a car. In Thomas's case, it was a hit and run, and to this day, the person responsible has never been brought to justice. And so it begins. Since Thomas's death, my life has literally been filled with so many deaths of close friends and family members that I figured it best to cherish their memories by writing this book that you hold now in your hands. This book is a tribute. This book is a celebration of life. Besides a very short story that I wrote when I was around 10 years old called The Deadly Letter. This is the very first time in my life that I've ever decided to put pen to paper and write a book. I've always enjoyed reading, and typically I read a minimum of around 20 books a year. The only problem is I wasn't exactly an A student. Before getting started with this book, I had to look up the difference between a prologue and an epilogue. I've never considered myself a good speller either, so with that being said, whoever is tasked with proofreading this story will most certainly have their work cut out for them. Although this is my first book and admittedly an amateur attempt, I hope you will enjoy it. I hope it makes you laugh, perhaps cry, and I hope some of my stories stick with you for the rest of your life as they have with mine. Thank you, and please enjoy. Sincerely, Stephen M. Camerata. That was dated 1/2019, so 1 year ago, pretty much today. Table of Contents. Book 1, Please Don't Die, said to myself. Chapter 1, The Race. Chapter 2, The Crash. Chapter 3, Magic Salamanders. Chapter 4, The Introduction. Chapter 5, Busted. Chapter 6, The Revolution. Chapter 7, The Cliffhanger. Chapter 8, College Can Be Dangerous. Chapter 9, Sex. Chapter 10, Miami Heat. Chapter 11, Relapse and Redemption. Book 2, Please Don't Die, Dad. Chapter 1, The Party. Chapter 2, The Life Lesson. Chapter 3, Coffee Breath to the Rescue. Chapter 4, It's in the Sauce. Chapter 5, The Bewley Building. Chapter 6, The Cottage. Chapter 7, Puppies. Chapter 8, Friendship. Chapter 9, I Have 6 Months to Live. Chapter 10, The End. So this video, introduction, prologue, and the chapters, thank you for listening, and please stay tuned, because what I'd like to do is just read this book chapter by chapter. Eventually it's going to get published. Eventually you're going to read it, you're going to love it, and you're going to make me a millionaire, and I thank you for that in advance.